So, today, we got ourselves another surprise little balance patch. This one's a bit more focused on kind of quality of life rather than changing anything, but there are actually some pretty significant changes in here too. And once again, we have a communication post here from the legendary Fire Attunement 9835. Okay, yeah, the invisible moderator lurking around here on the forum. So let's get right into it. Here we go. The June 8 release, and to see what we were dealing with right now. In this update, we are focusing on remaining skill tuning and bug fixes as follow-up to the May 11 balance update. We wanted to give a special attention to small quality of life issues experienced by several professions. To that end, we are making changes, such as increasing the maximum duration of the swiftness boon to 60 seconds and allowing multiple applications of super speed to stack duration. Quality of life fixes to individual professions include proper source tracking for the Firebrand's Ashes of the Just skill, and a fix to the movement behavior of the Thief's Death Blossom Dagger skill, so that it no longer sends you far past the intended target if you're under the effect of swiftness or super speed. That is a very big one, by the way. Condi Daredevil activating. With regard to World versus World, we are making targeted changes to the two pain points: the overperforming engineer trait, Purity of Purpose, and the druid skill, Glyph of Unity. Well, more on that in a little bit. We've long seen Purity of Purpose to be the dominating support trait for large group play in World vs. World, with its ability to quickly and continually stack all boons in an area. In this update, Purity of Purpose has an internal cooldown of 2 seconds per affected target. This means it can be triggered on the same target again every other second, such as in alternating pulses of Cleansing Field, but not in shorter intervals. Glyph of Unity has been recently used in large battles to cause spikes of damage totaling in the hundreds of thousands in a matter of seconds, especially in conjunction with Signet of Stone to provide invulnerability while doing so. This ability to cause dozens of attacks per second, limited only by how many hits of striking the druid to up to 5 targets, has no effective counter in large group combat, except to keep distance from the druid in the first place. We didn't think this was great. I like it. In this update, Glyph of Unity now has an internal cooldown of 0.25 seconds per activation, so it can deliver a maximum of 4 attacks per second to linked enemies. So, this was actually a really fun thing, and we can kind of show the video here. I'll try and grab the video. Hang on, it's Kadeem. So we can just take a look at here. So, this is what you found in raids, by the way. This bug was found in raids and has been recently being abused in World versus World too. And I can just demonstrate to you like how effective this really is. So what it involves is going on Kadeem CM, stacking all the fires up from the CM mechanic, loads of them all on one place. Everyone is stacking them here on the squiggle. And then you can go ahead and see what happens at 60%. So they're just DPSing the boss down to 60% as normal, as you can see here. They're going to place their fires, and, well, they're about to do something very, very interesting indeed. So what they're going to go ahead and do is get that CC, dodge that, and then watch the boss and watch the frame rate. This is, worth talking about right now. This is essentially a bug fix to an extent, right? Essentially a bug fix is what it's going to be. You can see Glyph of Unity is all charged up here. They're about to go onto the fires and stack up, and then watch this HP. So here they go. They're going to go here. They activate the Glyph, and then they're going to use Signet of Stone, and then go on all the fire. There it is. And they stand here, and, well, look at that frame rate go, and look at that boss HP. As you can see, the damage per second, pretty goddamn high. Let's go ahead and watch that again, because I think it is quite a spectacular sight there indeed. There we go, and yep, there you go. The druids go from bottom DPS all the way up to infinite DPS in a matter of moments, and essentially this interaction has been fixed. Okay, you will no longer be able to do that, because you can imagine, right? You can imagine doing this in a World versus World environment, say running into the enemy Zerg, tanking all of the damage, right, with the Glyph and using the invulnerability of Signet of Stone, maybe some, and just surviving the entire time because of the invulnerability to power damage, and then simply one-shotting the entire enemy team. I believe a few World versus World commanders were having issues with this as well. Yeah, you can do it on Demos as well by stacking all the hands in a similar fashion, but I think the Kadeem the Peerless one is certainly a bit more spectacular. So let's move on to the actual changes themselves. A bug, it's more an unintended interaction, right? Like, it's not exactly a bug, it's technically working as intended, but it's a very problematic interaction that's now been fixed. So, here we go. Super speed. Multiple applications of the effect will now stack duration up to a maximum duration of 10 seconds. This is actually really weird, a really spicy change here, because I feel like Scrapper can actually give itself more than 10 seconds of super speed in one burst. I think if you have like medkit, if you use the F1 on medkit, doesn't it give you like 5 seconds and 7 seconds as well for like 12 seconds? So now it's going to be a bit weird. But this is actually quite a nice quality of life. This means that you can like use 2 sources together, or like use it before it runs out and it won't overwrite. Okay, which is pretty nice. Pretty damn nice right there as well. I think it's kind of nice stuff like Ellie, right? Like Fresh Air Ellie, which can like attune very, very quickly back to Fresh Air to keep giving itself super speed, right? So you can have like a lot of super speed uptime. Now, because, you know, you have super speed, you attune, you go back, right? And then bam, you're going to get another 3 seconds there as well. Boom, 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 boom. So you can really do that. That's a nice quality of life change. I think in general, this is a good change. So stacking that up. Okay. So stacking that up all the way to, you know, to chain them together, you know, to have like 1 second left over, it turns into 4 instead of just going to 3, is actually a really nice change. It's a good quality of life change there. And it will make playing with multiple sources of super speed, so if you and your buddy have both got super speed, you aren't going to fight with each other too much. So that's a nice quality of life change. And same thing with swiftness here. Swiftness going up to 60 seconds is honestly a bit of a pain point, right? There were certain skills that just flat out gave you more than 30 seconds before the patch. Spectral Walk is the kind of like the most obvious one, right? With Spectral Walk would give you like 45 seconds of swiftness, which would then get cut to 30 because the cap was 30. So yeah, good change here. Mastery skills. Channeled Agony. This strike no longer applies Spectral Agony condition. Strike damage doubled. Torment stacks applied, going from 3 to 5. I guess it's because it was kind of like a really weird gimmick that it did this. They're trying to make it a little bit less gimmicky, but again, not super relevant. Better for power classes though, which is nice, because it was very condition focused previously. This is the, basically this is the skill that you get on your 5 when you're in downstate in PvE, but, you know, it is what it is, right? Elementalist, Signet of Fire. The number of applied burning stacks on activation has been reduced from 4 to 2, and the duration of applied burning has been increased from 6 to 10 in all game modes. This is, of course, a slight nerf, right? So you've halved the stacks, but not doubled the duration. So it's very similar, right? So you're going from 4 stacks for 6 seconds. So in other words, 24 seconds of burning, 24 seconds of burning, but in parallel, you're going to 20 seconds. So you basically lost 4 seconds base, 8 seconds with permanent duration there as well. So this is a slight nerf to Condition Weaver, essentially, and Condition Tempest. These builds were, I suppose, slightly overperforming. It's kind of like an unnecessary change. I think they probably could have left the duration at, you know, they could have put it to 12 seconds, basically, like, just double duration, half the stacks. That probably would have been fine, to be honest. Like, but I guess they want to take the number a little bit down there as well. So I think it's fine. Again, the goal here is like Conduit Weaver is actually very bursty, right? Like Conduit Weaver is already a very, very bursty build because that's just the way Weaver works and the way burning works, right? There's a lot of burning on the build. So they're trying to just smooth that burst out a little bit there by flattening the curve and then making it just ramp up a bit more. It's still going to be very bursty, by the way. Like, you know, that's it. You know, one change is not going to get the job done, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Now, this is probably the really big change here. Like, the Mirage change that we see a little bit down is relevant, but this is definitely the big one. Purity of Purpose has an internal cooldown of 2 seconds per target. This is both not as bad as it sounds, but also maybe as bad as it sounds, right? So this means if you spam all your cleansers, so if you've got your gyro up, for example, and you're also fumigating at the same time, and you're mashing all your buttons, then you're going to lose value. But if you kind of use your cleanses intelligently in World versus World, then it shouldn't be too bad. So, actually, but just to recap here, Purity of Purpose is a trait that means whenever you cleanse a condition, you instead convert it into a boon, essentially, right? So, Weakness goes to Might, Burning goes to Aegis, etc., etc., etc. And previously, this was completely uncapped. Completely uncapped there as well with that. But now it's got an internal cooldown of 2 seconds per target. So again, intelligent use is not going to nerf this. It means it's not that harsh of a nerf. But the other hand is that, yeah, this is still a bit of a wallop, right? It's not a big wallop, but it's a gentle, like, love tap here. And I think ArenaNet is treading on very dangerous ground, because they're completely right, by the way, what they say here, that it's a really painful and really oppressive trait. True, right? But I think they've got to be really careful with not making World versus World unfun. Like, if you nerf the boon application and kind of conversions too much, World versus World will belong to the Corrupt Lords, right? It will belong to the Corruptors. And yes, you don't lose cleansers here, but one of the reasons why this trait is so good, right, is because it gives you more boons to be corrupted. And that might sound weird and a bit unintuitive, but it means that you can kind of buffer your boon bar, right? So that your good boons, like the ones you actually care about, don't necessarily get corrupted instantaneously, right? Like you can kind of fill up your boon bar and shield the ones that you really don't want gone and just keep reapplying them to actually manage the massive amount of boons. Because there's a lot of boon corrupt in World vs. World, right? You got your Necros, you got your Revs, right? You got your Mesmers right there, you got your Spellbreaker, right? There's a lot going on there. So ArenaNet, in my opinion, they are treading a fine line. Because if they over-nerf defensive support, World vs. World will become very, very unfun. As it stands right now, I don't think this nerf is actually super, super bad. I don't think it will kind of make World vs. World big aids. I think it will be okay because, again, intelligent use of your cleansers will still get you a lot of value. Because a lot of Scrapper cleansers, guys, as they correctly point out here, is every second, right? So your Gyro's cleansing every second, Fumigate is cleansing every second, right? Like your protection field, right, might be cleansing every second, right? As well as you're running the Gyro, right, instead of Medkit for some unknown godforsaken reason, right? So you're still getting a lot of value out of it, but about half, right? This is kind of like a 50% nerf to it. So it's not like a deleted trait, it's still a very strong trait, but it punishes you for basically playing badly a lot of the time, which I think is okay. Exactly, right? So as long as you don't like spam all your cleansers at the same time, this will still generate a lot of value for you. So that makes sense, right? It's okay. Guardian, Ashes of the Just. This skill now probably attributes its damage to the source of each stack of the effect. This is this is just a nice quality of life. So to explain what this actually means, what changed here. So previously there was something called stealing ashes. Basically, the first firebrand to use ashes would do damage with those ashes. So you could get these like crazy numbers, right? You could have one firebrand and like pre-stack 20 ashes on this guy, and then all of them, right, on the entire group would be sourced from that firebrand, which is obviously very, very silly. And also, this meant that if you were a heal brand and you used Ashes of the Just before a DPS firebrand, you would actually basically steal his damage and make the damage terrible because you don't have any condition damage, right? So obviously not good. However, now that won't happen. This is kind of like a buff nerf. You can't give ashes to another firebrand if you're a heal brand, but you also can't yoink them and ruin them as well. This is just like a functionality fix. This is exactly how it should be. This is correct. The operation here is correct. Well done there by ArenaNet to fix that. And now Mirage. We've seen Mirage get a bit of a slap over the kind of past while, obviously. They nerfed it previously because when Alacrity Mirage came out, it was unbelievably overtuned. It was like 50k DPS on certain bosses, which, while giving 25 might and quickness, Alacrity, which, maybe a little bit too good, guys. Maybe a little bit too good. So now they nerf it again. Like, this is a heavy nerf too. Chaos Verges. When cast by a clone, the duration of the applied confusion condition has been reduced from 8 to 3 seconds. Ooh! Ouch! They already massively nerfed the staff auto attack on clones, and now they're massively nerfing the ambush too. And of course, a big part of this build's damage is indeed from spamming confusion from the Chaos Vortex ambush attack, which is the staff ambush attack. Because, of course, that's how you give your alacrity. That is how you give your might and also do a lot of damage there. And, of course, the clones cast this ability, guys, because of the trait in Mirage called Infinite Horizon. Infinite Horizon means that whenever you gain Mirage Cloak, so when you dodge, basically, your clones do too. So they all cast their attack, right? So, yeah. This is definitely a pretty big nerf. It will probably still be a very strong build, so Mirages, don't worry about it. Like, I think this is going to be a very, very good build, particularly on certain encounters. I actually think that the thing that is really powerful about this build is that if you give 25 might. The 25 might thing is actually disgusting. It really is. It's really, really strong. Because it means that your druid can run Lingering Light for more healing. You can basically split up and assign that might roll to someone else, right, instead of you, so you're going to always have that, right? It's very, very good. Like, this build is still amazing. 25 might and alacrity, 10-man. Oh, this is still going to be an absolute beast build. Ranger, short bow. This is... I did not expect this. poison duration is being increased from 4 to 5 seconds when striking from in front of the target, and from 6 to 7 when striking from behind. This change applies in all game mode. And then crippling shot, the duration of bleeding applied by the pet's next 3 attacks is increased from 12 seconds to 15 seconds in all game modes. This is just a straight out buff, right, to short bow Soul Beast, which is already a pretty damn nice build, right? This is a pretty good build already, and now that's actually pretty big, because bear in mind, guys, poison damage is very relevant for Ranger, because Ranger has a trait that means that poison it applies is 25% stronger. And I guess they felt that maybe it was a little bit lower than they wanted, just a little bit lower. But this is nice. Bear in mind, guys, you actually get 5 stacks of poison, so this is actually more than you might think. And again, 3 stacks of bleeding, you basically get like an extra 9 seconds of bleeding baseline when you use this, because you get 3 bleeds, right? And you get 3 seconds extra on each of those bleeds. So you get 9 seconds extra bleeding base, up to 18 with duration. Same thing with the poison, right? You get 5 seconds extra poison, but 10 seconds extra when you multiply it by the duration. This is very strong. Like this build is going to get a nice little nudge, because you use this skill a lot. Right? It's a very short cooldown skill. Just a 10-second cooldown, I believe. So you get a lot of value out of that. This is a very, very powerful skill. And this build's going to be good. I mean, Colony Soul Beast is already a great build for newer players, training players who are trying to learn DPS, learn about gaming, learn about memes. So yeah, it's good stuff. I like it. Then there's the Druid change we talked about. Again, this is it. People didn't really use this ability. It probably could do with maybe a rework at some point. It's kind of like a dead skill outside of like one-shotting raid bosses and people in large world versus world zergs. You know, as we said before, this is kind of like it was an unintended interaction that was like this. You could like one-shot people with it by going invul and then eating loads of hits and just not dodging. So this is a unintended interaction fix thing. There you go. Boom. Revenant. Legendary Demon Stance. Embrace the Darkness. Reduce the duration. Applied torment stacks from 5.5 to 5 seconds in PvE only. Rev is OP, and it still is. That's all I've got to say. Devastation. Destructive Impulses. Bonus damage for halving an offhand weapon equipped has been reduced from 5% to 2.5% in PvE only. So basically, this nerfs it from 10% damage modifier down to just 7.5, because you still get the 5% for the main hand, but you just get a 2.5 for the offhand now, so you get 5 and 2.5 instead of 5 and 5. So this is a very small nerf to power rev, basically. Small nerf to power rev, which, you know what, dude? Hot fucking take, right? I don't know why I mean, the thing is, they actually made it do all damage as well, I guess, right? This actually, they changed this trait to give bonus damage everywhere. Like, not gonna lie, this was probably a bit of a weird gimmick here. I don't know why they did this, right? I don't know exactly why they made Devastation give, like, pure bonus damage across the board. Because if you log over to our rev, you can kind of see why, like, what actually happened here. Like, the issue that ArenaNet is encountering is that they buffed Devastation to basically give bonus damage to everything instead of just strike damage. And the weird part about that, if you see here, right? All damage, so you can hit, all damage dealt is increased. And the weird thing about that is that Devastation was supposed to be kind of like a power damage line, right? But they accidentally made it an everything damage line instead. In fact, to the point where Devastation essentially outperformed Invocation, even on condition builds. This meant that on the Condi build, you go from being like a nice damage dealer, but again, you're kind of a glass cannon to an extent, especially with the Soul Cleave nerf, right? To you are an unkillable god that can't die, and you also pump 40k DPS. So, bit of a weird one there from ArenaNet, not gonna lie, guys. So I think this is actually mainly aimed at Devastation Renegade, actually. Condi Renegade, rather than at something like, say, Power Herald or Power Renegade. So they're kind of digging themselves out of the hole they dug themselves into a little bit. But, yeah, a bit of a meme right there. The unusual approach there as well. Like, they should have probably made this, they should probably make this strike damage instead of just being like all damage, because I think it's just a bit weird, right? Like, as it is right now, considering this is such a power damage focus line with a lot of vulnerability, right? Extra ferocity there as well, right? And the lifesteal thing. I mean, it's great for open world, don't get me wrong, and it makes Renegade a great build for newer players in raids too, right? Because you're literally unkillable with Dance of Death, and you cannot die, and you're still doing crazy damage, but from a design point of view, I think it is very, very weird. It should probably be Invocation that you play on Renegade. For Condi Renegade is probably the way to go, like kind of getting that charged mist going on there as well, some fun content, but I don't know, man, okay? That is how it is. Let's continue. Thief. Dagger, Death Blossom. This skill no longer moves the player farther if they're under the effects of swiftness. This is actually a direct response to a lot of players complaining about this because, yeah, it's really troll. Basically, if you have Suicide, you used to like fly really far there as well, but now it won't do that. This is still, in my opinion, this is still one of the most awkward skills in the game. Death Blossom basically kind of like leaps you over, you spin around and you get animation lock the entire time. Very awkward skill. Kind of a cool skill, but very, very awkward there as well. And then we have the Daredevil change there as well. Lotus Training. Condition damage bonus has been increased from 10% to 15% in PvE. This now matches the current bonus of this trait in PvP and World vs. World. I believe this is kind of a response to Condi Deadeye being really, really good. I think they want to make Condi Daredevil also good. As I understand it, it was actually already quite a powerful thing there as well, right? It was already quite a good thing. Anyway, and that 5% is honestly going to be nice, right? Another 5% modifier is, well, a lot of the time it's going to be a 5% damage modifier, particularly seeing as dodging does damage as well. With this, the Lotus Training is the ability that changes your dodge into a condition damage attack, essentially, on Daredevil. And now it also gives you a 15% damage modifier to your condition. So, again, this is like a very powerful effect, right? That's a lot of damage. Like, 15% mod is crazy, and you can maintain that pretty much the entire time. So, Condi Daredevil is going to be strong off the basis of that, guys. You're going to go big, big damage. There you go. And now it's even stronger. Yeah, it already was powerful, as Sith is now confirming in the chat. It already was a powerful build. Now it's even more powerful than that. So, very, very strong. And then finally, we have the final change here. Deadeye, Malicious Sneak Attack. This skill now only applies one stack of Torment with a duration equal to Tri-Swing Mars in all game modes. I think this is actually a nerf, actually. So they're nerfing it. Dude, like, how's Condi Deadeye not suffered enough? I believe Condi Deadeye was strong last patch. This is going to nerf it a little bit more, I believe. I think this is a nerf there, which is a bit of a weird thing here, seeing as it got nerfed pretty hard last time to the point where it didn't... I mean, it didn't even see a lot of play. It didn't see a lot of play even last patch because it was kind of awkward and gimmicky. It was like, oh, wow, I had this really one impressive log on Sunquar Peak. This build's OP. Well... Not really. Like, it was such a weird thing with, like, the dagger pistol stuff, like, teleporting around. Like, no one played this shit. No one played this garbage, man, right? So I don't think it was really bad as such, that it was really, really strong. I think it's kind of okay if you have something that's really, really strong like that when it's kind of a weird ability. And now it's even memed harder, but there you go. Unlucky Deadeye players. Unlucky, guys. Don't worry, you're still the most unfun thing in PvP and World vs. World. So you guys have got those two game modes. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting. I mean, look, I think it will be, just going to say it, guys, I think it is worth talking about the lack of anything to do with PvP here. I mean, I think there's something brewing right now. I think, look, let me put it like this, guys. I think CMC is he's winding his swing up right now. I'm expecting a patch from CMC probably after the monthly tournament in June is when you'll probably see a bounce patch there aimed at fixing a lot of the issues in PvP because there are a lot of issues. Scourge unchecked, Prot Hollow unchecked, Renegade Fiesta, Core Guard Fiesta. Honestly, Thief still overperforming as well. I think, at some point, Thief has got to get reworked in some way, I think, for PvP. Because honestly, it always just rears its ugly head no matter what and ends up being very oppressive, to be honest. Even then. So yeah, there needs to be a lot of work done on PvP, I think. And I think CMC's winding up. He's evaluating it. He'll wait for the monthly, see how high-level competitive play actually goes, and then he'll activate and fully slam everything. So stay tuned for that. The other thing here is, I think, conspicuously, there's no changes to Warrior or Necromancer. Necromancer is very, very overtuned, but I think it's worth noting here, actually. I think that in a way, ArenaNet kind of want it to be. Necromancer does 35k DPS right now, and I think ArenaNet's actually okay with that. I think they value. I think ArenaNet and the community really undervalues how strong the support is on that build, but I don't want them to nerf it, right? I would much rather they nerf the damage on Scourge than nerf the support, because I don't want yet another glass cannon build. I think every step ArenaNet takes towards a Holy Trinity system is a mistake. Like, one of the great parts about Guild Wars 2 is the fact that every spec usually has some kind of utility or some kind of support or hybridization it brings to the table. And I think just nerfing the barrier would be a mistake. I'd much rather have useful things. For example, I would much rather have Con the Renegade bringing Cower, right? Having some lifesteal, right? And having some utility in CC, vulnerability application, as opposed to just making it run full DPS with like Shiro and Malix, right? To me, that's much more interesting. Right, than you know, making it go very one-dimensional. Me do damage, me smash, me boring. That's a much more interesting approach. I would much rather see Firebrand actually have its tome cooldowns reduced and then have its damage significantly reduced, right? So it becomes a very hybrid spec, rather than making it, oh, I guess I'll press another Tome of Justice. I guess I'll axe auto attack for a little bit. Oh, my tome's got a 3-minute cooldown. Oh boy, this is fun, isn't it? Right, I'd much rather see classes do more, but do less damage and pay the hybrid tax instead. And you can have some glass cannons. I think it's perfectly fine to have, say, a glass cannon weaver, a glass cannon thief. I think that's completely okay. That's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I think those things should exist. Those things should exist. Okay? But I also think that if you have something that can be really interesting, like Firebrand, like Scourge, even like Weaver, right? Even like Renegade, right? I think having these hybrid builds are fun to play, engaging to play, and interesting from a design perspective. So I really have no issue with that, but I think they should balance accordingly. And I think this is the thing that's kind of creeping in with Scourge and Firebrand, is that you have this incredibly high utility, but you also have, like, you're not really paying the hybrid tax, and this makes the glass cannons feel bad, right? Weaver feels bad because you trade off the godlike utility of Firebrand and Scourge for what? 5k DPS? Probably not even that in a pug group, by the way. In a pug group, Necro might even outperform you. So you're trading off, right? You're trading off godlike utility to, you know, be in the down state. Like, you know, that's what you're trading. It's like, oh, great. Oh, man. At least I've got my extra 5k DPS benchmark. I'm dead, but oh, boy, that extra benchmark. Ooh, yeah, nice. Right? Like, that's not really a very good trade. It's not a very appealing trade. And I think that's what Arena needs to be very careful about here. You know, you can give these classes very strong mechanics, but don't make it so the tax makes the glass cannon stuff incredibly unappealing and unrewarding, because that's what's going on here, right? Like, that's the situation here, guys. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that patch. Honestly, not a bad patch, considering it's like, it's been 2 weeks since we have our last changes. Again, great communication here from Fire Achievement. Love to see that there as well. I agree with the logic of these changes. I think they are definitely playing with fire here a little bit, but in a way, I like that. I think now is the time to experiment. Now is the time to slam, right? Like, let's get some big energy in these changes. Let's have some spice, right? And I think they are moving towards that. And yeah, stay tuned for a CMC PvP patch. CMC PvP patch is incoming, I believe. I imagine we'll see some updates on that relatively soon. I'm loving the communication here. I like the patches, good quality of life, and some fun stuff indeed. I love to see it. Okay, that's it for the patch. Nice.